We're going to learn a little bit of Tzadik. Here's a Sefer Parshat Kisesei. Whoever wants, there's another one here. Kisesei L'Machama is a big important time in Parsha. We're in the tissue in your book is by Gimel. We're just going to touch on the Kiddush. You have to excuse me. I really didn't have issue with that. So I really tried to prepare, and it just wasn't much there. So maybe if anyone wants to help me out. So we know that Parshat Kisesei is all about this war on your enemy, but it goes off into the mitzvahs Yafas Torah, and this is part of Milchama back in the day. I don't know if it's unfortunately we see from our enemies maybe, but the Israeli army are very, very careful with any of these problems with women, and they, I hear stories during the war of people searching for a women soldier to accompany women terrorists so the men wouldn't be alone with them. Like, we make a lot of either it's halacha or it's just Baruch Hashem Am Kodesh. They're just naturally attuned to morality and these kind of things. Yeah, we're not meant to have Rahmanis on these machshamams, but it's asa because they're akazarim. Yeah, they're cruel. So it's the Torah says you shouldn't. But in this case, it's not even, it's Rahmanis on yourself to not be mixture with a woman from war. Yeah, to God forbid. So, but we know that deep down, and this is really, and this is what he's going to get into, is really the Machomas Yetzer. That's how we can connect to it. Chodesh Elul. It's a zman of a lot of chizuk, a lot of inspiration for Yomim Tovim, but it's also a sign of fighting the other side. There's a force in the world. I keep going into about tshuva stories, but just it's important, just so you get into a little bit of a mindset about tshuva. Like before I became aware of Yiddishkeit and Torah, I didn't know there was such a thing called the Yetzer Harah. So the closest thing we had in that way of thinking was ego. Ego, that's as much as we could associate. So when I first learned about the Yetzer Harah, I was like, wow, now I understand what this nudnik is driving us crazy, making us do crazy things. It didn't make any sense. What is a human? It's this wild creature, just no clarity of why these different feelings and emotions and voices, and start to think maybe I'm schizo. You don't have a clear system. But once Baruch Hashem we plugged into Torah, and you start to, everything has clarity in terms of what's so important. Definitely at that time for me then, and continues to be, was that it clarified how the nefesh of a person works, how the emotions, the seichel, the different aspects. So the Kabbalah and Hasidus really impacted me in a powerful way. Just even Pshat of Torah, it doesn't have to even pick Avos or any of kind of Musa helped me in those times, because it was just like, whoa, this now makes sense, all these things going on. There was no clarity otherwise. Imagine the lack of clarity. You can't imagine the choshech you're walking around when you don't have Torah. The darkness, because you've always had it in your life, I assume, to some level. Imagine having no Torah, literally, minimal Shemoni. About 2 Pesukim, Shema Yisrael and Hinei Matuv V'Naim. That was probably about it. Yeah, everything else was just a blur of weird rituals. It didn't make any sense, and there was no clarity to being a Jew. It was crazy. So, Baruch Hashem, 18, 19, you start to learn, and that's what happened to me, and it changed my life. I started to put context of all these thoughts I was having. Now I started to give it Makoros and sources and clarity, and you start to build a system of thought that starts to make sense of your human experience, culture can your Jewish experience. It says in the Sifri, it says that this is a war of permission, in the contrast of Mechamis Mitzvah. Yeah? That was the whole machlokas with this war. Is there Mechamis Rishus, Mechamis Mitzvah? Everyone in this shul said Mechamis Mitzvah for sure, as far as I remember. But Rav Shlomo brought from Rav Shmuel Eliyahu from Halachas Mechamis Shalom. He pretty made a whole clear case as Mechamis Mitzvah. But according to the Parsha is referring to Mechamis Rishus. That is talking about your enemy, and your enemy is given. And remember, we mentioned this concept of your enemy a lot in Psukim and Tehillim. The Dovid Hashem, there's a Muhammad. We talk about this enemy, this Oyev. Yeah? There's one of the names of the Yetzer Harah that the Gemara gives us 7 names. So one of them is Oyevecha, your enemy. But here it literally means your enemy, like physical enemy. Keneged Oyevech v'nosno Hashem. Hashem's going to give He's going to give it to your hands. So Baruch Hashem, we're going to be victorious. We're going to conquer these people. And if you were able to make all of this, it says in the matter that in the end, Hashem, your God, is giving it to your hands. So, meaning this is Hashem who's the one who's giving it to your hands. That's, I think, the mashmas of the pasuk. And it doesn't say about any other mitzvah in these psukim except for the mitzvahs Yafas Torah, which we referenced before, that there's women who would come and try to get the Am Yisrael either to sin or to, they had their objectives, what they were trying to do. They were booty. There's different explanations what was going on at this moment, why they were taking these Yafas Torah. How would you translate Yafas Torah literally? Like kidnapped or captive woman, that's it, perfect. And in the merit of this, Hashem would give them into your hands. That there's a mitzvah. That's the point. We have to have mitzvahs. So that was the mitzvah of this parsha of Yafas Torah. So now we need to understand the mechavein, like what's the kavanah of the pasuk, that it says al oivecha, keneged oivecha, that's towards or opposite your enemy. Ach eisa b'shema Rav Bunim. He's going to bring. Remember now, Rabbi Bunim or Peshischa, Rav Simcha Bunim. He's the Masorah all the way back from the Yetzer Kodesh. Yeah, if you trace it back, it went to Rav Bunim. Rav Bunim was, I think, the chassid of the Yetzer Kodesh, and Rav Bunim was the Rebbe from the Kotzker, who was the Rebbe of the Izbich, and Rav Tzaddok joined on to Izbich. He didn't. The other day I mentioned maybe he was a time he was by Rav Tzaddok. I looked it up. He was never. Sorry, Rav Tzaddok was never by the Kotzker. He joined the Izbich. Maybe I think Lel Shabbos was by the Kotzker. It's Chavrusa. And then the Izbich, when he broke off, he took Lel Shabbos with him, and then Rav Tzaddok encountered the Izbich. But it goes back. The Masorah that they were coming is the Yetzer Kodesh's the Beshiska Derech of Chassidus, which is what we're hearing now from the Rebbe's Izbich, Rebbe's Rebbe. Yeah, like. So now, this is what all the Musa, all the Chassidish Sfarim talk about. That this parsha is really talking about on your enemy. That the simple way of explaining would be on the Yetzer Harah, not just the enemy, physical enemy, like the people we're fighting with. It means the actual inner Yetzer Harah, the inner battle. Lo derech remez levad, rak pshuta shel mikra. And it's not even a remez, yeah. According to you wouldn't think that. You'd think it means physical war. But the Chassidish Sfarim, they take liberty because in the end, we'll have to see. Let's try and understand why he would say it like this. Pshuta shel mikra, when the pshat in the pasuk is it means Yetzer Harah. Yeah, rak pshut shel mikra kain. Hainu zastam oyev hu Yetzer Harah. Because we know, and I mentioned it already from the Gemara and Sukkah, at the end of Masechta and then the last dafim, it talks about the different names Yetzer Harah was given, and one of them was the oyev, the enemy, and that is the Yetzer Harah. When it says oyev, it's a name for the Yetzer Harah. So I don't know if that's the kavanah of Tzadik saying, but oyev is the Yetzer Harah. Kamosh amru gam oyevav yashlim. Yetzer Harah. So it's a pasuk, it's a perish on Bereshis Rabbah, that on his enemies they will complete with him. This is the Yetzer Harah. Hine Sheva Umos, the Eretz Yisrael, Hemeshaya Klippers. This is a very deep now explanation of the 7 nations of Eretz Yisrael, which we mentioned earlier in the Chumash, and later on we drop one of them. We only end up with 6, because we see that the water carriers they end up becoming with the 7th one I think leave. They leave Eretz Gagashi, I think it is. Which one is it? The ones that leave. One of the 7 leave. So we often only refer to 6, but originally there were 7 nations that were in Eretz Yisrael, and they're the heads of the Klippers because remember the nations go out to 70, the 70 nations, Shivas Umos. So you say, there's 150 nations, I don't know, countries. That doesn't mean on the shorish level, on the root level, once again, Torah is describing the human reality on the deepest level, the true reality. There's 70 nations. There's 7, and it's very significant. 70, we can get into at some point, but the 7 of Eretz Yisrael are like the root of the 70, because 10 times 7 is 70. So they're the root. And what's the Rashis Klippa? And we're going to see in a minute, is Amalek. That's the one that pulls the nations away from Am Yisrael. And that's why the main Muhammad is with them, the Ikka Muhammad, and we're going to see that in a minute. That could be the Muhammad's mitzvah because of B'chias Amalek. We're going to see the end of the parsha. So it starts over with Muhammad's Rishus and ends the parsha Muhammad's mitzvah. He's lining it up, but let's just see what he says. The Sheva Umas Haaretz Yisrael Heim Rashi Klippos Heim Kalem Kol Echad Me'eser Shem Klippos Kol Shivim Umas. See, each one of them had 10 Klippos that came out of them. That was the 10 nations that came out. So they're like the root of all the other 10 nations that come out in the world, which adds up to 70. Because Kol Shivim Umas Aleim. Now Melot Techia Kol Neshama, and it says by them there will not live any souls. I don't know exactly what that means. It says by them not Techia Kol Neshama.
You had to kill every man, woman, and child.
Literally. There's no neshamas allowed to live. Interesting use the word neshama. But we're not going to be dark everything here because it's too deep for me. And here the Muhammad Rishus that is the pasuk's talking about is to kovish, to conquer the root of the klippos. And who is that? The kilku rishon ma'anachash. That's the original. And what was the original, the source of all these klippos? Because remember, according to Rameir, I'll just now dash a little bit, just to give clarity. Rameir says that the Torah, in his Torah, Kotnos Or was written with an Aleph. It was Kotnos Or. For Adam and Chava, they clothed themselves in skin, so the iron became an Aleph. So what does that mean? That's light, not skin. So Aleph is light, Aleph Vav Reish. Ayin Vav Reish is skin, is Or. So the Kilkul Rishon, the first chayt of the Nachash, which was the skin of the Nachash, became the skin of human beings. So we took on, at that point, we became from light to Or. By Rameir, he was such a Tzadik that he was still backed by the tikkun of the chayt. He was on a level where everything was Or. Based on what that means is a Gemara. Mefareshis, we don't understand these things. Rameir, they compare Rameir to, I heard this from Bear Wine, and we just had his yahrzeit 2 days ago. Bear Wine was a few weeks ago, but we had the yahrzeit from. It's funny to say, it's hard to say that because he was so much part of my Yiddishkeit when I was all Samech, etc. All his books and everything, and he used to come to give shir there. Baruch Hashem, big schus. So I remember hearing from him personally. He said about Rav Kook, whose yahrzeit was this week, that he compared him to Rameir, and that's why he said that's why the Chachamim Chazal at that time didn't paskin like Rameir, because Acherim it was Rameir. We don't paskin like, and so too with Kook, a lot of the Gedolim didn't understand him. He saw the Am Yisrael as Or, not Or with an iron. He saw Am Yisrael as light, so he didn't see any pagam in Am Yisrael. Like you see the way he looked at all of Klal Yisrael, to the Gelusa, and he saw how every kind of neshama had a tafkid, and even the so-called secular v'chulu. he saw everything in a much deeper way, and that's why Rov Rabbanim didn't understand the way he was viewing, and they weren't able to accept his psak, his derech. So that was one of the reasons why it moved away. So, but it wasn't because Chas Shalom has anything wrong with it. It's just that they went on the level to understand what Rav Kook was talking about. We see now, years and years later, how right he was. And if everyone would have makabed a little bit more from him, he was ahead of the game. Basically, he was looking into the future, what should be for Am Yisrael now, and the Chachamim were thinking he was the cookie. Like it was not that's cook. They didn't understand it. So, but the original kilkul was by the Nachash, which the Nachash once again is this changing the Metzias of where all of Adam was Kodesh, was serving Hashem, and then there became this concept of Shivim Umos, these 70 nations, this division of humanity from Aleph of Adam to Ayin Umos, just like the Aleph of Or to Ayin with an Or, with the skin. And what was the skin? The snake skin. So everything changed at that point. So that's really, the Gemara Kiddush is telling us that the Divrei Torah is what? Is connected the Yetzer Harah. Because there is no explanation from what we're receiving to it. Levat pnei what? The Yetzer Harah lishma lo, to hear in it. Ach mechavin sh'ayidei mitzvah zeh ayidei zeh yochlim lebatu etz hashorish Yetzer Harah mikol v'kol. And so the real kavanah of the mitzvah is what? It's not just to be olavecha, but to remove the shorish, the root level, which is the cause of your enemy, which is the Yetzer Harah. That's the root. The real war is with the Yetzer Harah. That's really the deeper understanding of everything we're dealing with in life. Is it's really, a war with the Yetzer Harah. That's a Rav once said to me, I don't need to watch movies. He said, why would I need to watch movies? He was in a shir once. He's a big Rav. He used to have a chavus with Yal Karm when he was in America, and then when he came to Eretz, he had a risk with the Brisker Rav, David Soloveitchik. Like he was a big person. Yeah, his name was Rav Avi Mishai Germain. He was named after the Chazon Ish. So he was one of my Rebbeim. He was under my chuppah as well, and he used to go around Yerushalayim, like be mechazik all the so-called after Derek Bacher, like he'd go to all the at-risk teenage yeshivas. He wouldn't sleep. He'd like be all week around. That's why I got a lot of inspiration to do a similar thing. I called it the Midnight Rabbi, but he was known as Rav Jermaine, and he used to help a lot in the Shabbos. So one of them was me. He helped me, and he said that the Nakuda was, I don't need to watch movies because my life is better than a movie because I'm the constant Muhammad with the Yetzer Harah. It's so exciting. It's a war all the time. Like you have to be have adrenaline. You have to be energized. You have to. It's. If you look at life a little bit more like that, rather than just mundane or something. No, it's a Muhammad Yetzer. It's a labor deck. You have a general, you have captains, you have different parts of the army. It's a whole experience, and it's constant. It's not like there's really much of a chafish. Even people that went away in chafish, I'm almost 100% sure all the people that were sitting by the beach or sitting by the swimming pools or camps, they were having Muhammad Yetzer. Maybe more than the ones sitting here in Eretz cells by the base midrash. Yeah, maybe more. Maybe it was even harder. I don't know. On a Chitzonis level, it looks so nice. On an internal level, it was a war. Yeah, because there's all these forces pushing us. Okay, so we're just going to skip now because I just want to just jump on one more thing about Shabbos. Now, it's good to know Lel Shabbos Lel Kiddush. We make Kiddush, and there's Zmiris we sing. It's Zion. It's paid. The next Torah is Zion. Azama b'shvochin. We have a certain negudim. I don't know if any of you say this, but these negudim from the Arizal are very, very important. They have a lot of Seudas, and they can help you open up the Shabbos experience each Suda. So one of the nekudas of when you make Kiddush, just good to know, you're also misakin the 70 umas olam, because there's 70 words in Kiddush. Now there's different nusachs. Some add a few more words, Ataba Chabanu, or whatever the Lashon is, I don't know. Kiyom. There's a few different nusachs, but according to Arizal, there's only 70 words. Keneged the 70 nations. And when you're making Kiddush, you're taking the shlita that seemingly Amalek or the Machshamams, all these forces seem to have on the nations, and you're bringing it back to the partnership of creation. So you're massacring all the 70 nations. The first 35 is Keneged, all the nations under Ishmael, because they're divided into two. And the second one is Keneged, all the nations under Esav, I think. Or it might be, Ishmael, Esav. Because they're the two main heads of the 70 nations divided into two, the east and the west. The Ishmael, Esav, Yesh, Ayin. There's a whole explanation that starts to make sense of all these nations, and they're more, the eastern world's more towards Ayin, and Ishmael more towards giving up your life. Whereas and it gets more intense the more east you go, because Precious, all this, and then the more you go west, the more Esav, Yesh, more I am, America, we're real American, Gashmias. So you have more Ruchnias, more Gashmias, but the Am Yisrael right in the middle in Eretz Yisrael, we're the balance. So we're making Kiddush, we're standing with all the nations around us, and we're making Seder, bring everything back to Ma'aseh Bereishis, Zeichas Yisrael, Zeichas Ma'aseh Bereishis, Zeichas Yisrael. We're bringing everything back to Seder. Am Yisrael makes Seder of chaos. So that's just important. And so part of the Nusach, when you look, he mentions this in the Azam B'Shvachin, which is a nigun from the Arizal. Psach Arizal Kodesh Azam Seudas Shabbos B'Loshen Zeh B'Voah B'Tikunim Solsa der Avis Asa Kedushas Vada Shrinta Tata Di the Mesitcha de Smola Taman Yirai de Tama B'Hon Kedushas Esalavim. So there's a certain experience of the night of the Levim, and the Suda has a koyach of bringing us to the prayers of the tefillah of the night. Now, what would you say is a higher level in Nazam B'Shvachin? What would you say? What's a higher level? The davening or the Suda? So,
Litvak would say it's the davening.
Chassid, it goes up.
Right.
It's actually a higher level. The Salusa, the davening of Arvis, goes up to a higher madrega when you come to the Suda. Really, the way the Chassidim understand the davening of Shabbos, both the night, the morning, and Mincha, is they're all a chana for the Suda. They give you the entrance way to enter, especially with the Nigunim as well, to prepare you for the Kedushas of Suda. That's just it's a different way of looking at the Suda. That's great. Now what's beautiful is that every tefillah on Shabbos has its own nusach. One of the famous ones is Bo. You end off, before you say Bracha to Hashem Kadesh Shabbos, and we don't say the 12 brachas in the middle, we just say one bracha. So it says Bo in the night, Bo in the morning, and Bam in the Shabbos Mincha. So Va is Keneged the Nekeva, which is Keneged Yetzer Kavinu. That's the Suda Lel Shabbos Yetzer Kavinu, because he was Nekeva. Kedis Yitzhak talks about that. He took on a Nekeva Neshama, and then it comes Shabbos Day is Avram Avinu's Bo, and that's Bo. That's the day, and then Shabbos Seudas is already now Bam, Venuchu Vam, Yaakov and his sons. So there's a lot of sodas in the tefillas and nusach. Everything has so much to it. You just have to learn the svarim. They open it up. So each nusach is miyuchad. Aber b'yom tov nusach achad lechol shalosh tefillas. Whereas it's different on Yom Tov. Suddenly it's not like that. Yom Tov you experience every davening as the same nusach. It's fine a different tefillah because you're in a different place in the night, the morning, the day, but you're still saying the same nusach throughout Yom Tov. Except for, say, Rosh Hashanah, Musaf, and Yom Kippur, then there's some shinuim, because you have all the malchis, the chonis, shofars, and v'chule. Or in Kedushas Yom Kippur, it's also different. Ken b'Yom Tov Kedushas kol hasudas echad. And so with also all the Sudas, I didn't know this, but all the Sudas have the same Nusach or Kedusha, whatever that means. Kamosha Amar B'Kol Sudas Da Hu Sudas at the Kedusha Baruch Hu Shchinta. Masha Ein Ken B'Shabbos Chasher B'Zar Kaj L'Kol Sudas Kedushas Miyuchad the Sudas Rishonas. So the fact that the Suda, the Kedusha Baruch Hu Shchinte, Shabbos is Choshev Zarkash, the Kol Suda, Kedusha is Miyuchades, the Suda Rishona Hachot Puchin, the Kedishin, the Shnia Datik Kedisha, the Suda Shlishis, the Za'amdin Kedishin. So there's three levels or three descriptions of the Suda that the Arizal brings, and this brought in this Nisach, and that's why it's important to say this, the Niggin from the Arizal. If your family aren't used to it, you can say it privately. You don't have to, put them through it. You can have your own experience. Everyone according to their situation. You can't start. There's some people used to read the whole Zohar before the Suda. I mean, that's just cruel to your family. Yeah, I would never do that. Yeah, because there's a whole section of Zohar and some Siddurim as well. Don't do that. But a skin sauce it can be nice if you have a niggin for it and you have other people into it. You get your kids into it eventually. I'm at a point, thank God, all my family know the niggin because we've always done it. But the Lel Shabbos is talking about a specific Kedusha Seudas Rishonis, a Hachot Pukin, this apple field, this holy apple field. The day is talking about Tikadisha. We've mentioned in Rav Tzaddok Tikadisha is this high level beyond our Misagim of Keser. And Tepukin Kiddush is more to do with the Hachot Tepukin Kiddush is more to do with Am Yisrael, the Shechina, and then Suda Shlishis Zeh Anpin Kedushin. That's already like Hashem's, Midas and His expression to us through Midas, and it's a very high level also. Zeh Gam Sudas Rishonis who Sitra Di Lelvai Leviim Beshira Bezimra. That's why it begins this song as Zama Shvochin. It has a connection to Leviim. And I mentioned before Yitzhak, because what do we say Shabbos afternoon? Yitzhak Yarenein. And the Leviim are connected to the Inyan of Gevura, and Nigunim is the Inyan of it says in the Zohar that Leviim and Moshe Gevura. Leviim, why are they the ones who sing in the Beis HaMikdash? Because they're the ones who choose the notes. They have the Gevura to Misamsem to choose the right notes. And the Inyan is Yitzhak Yarenein. So Lel Shabbos, the real avodah is to have a bechina of Leviim, which is Shira, Bezimra, Azaba B'Shvochin, which is also Yitzhak Yarenein, which we say Shabbos day, Shabbos Mincha. So we're in the bechina of Yarenein. There's certain rina, certain singing. So I don't know if you've got that feeling at your Shabbos Tish, but the singing of Lel Shabbos is usually more. I don't know if you've had that experience. There's certain experiences singing a bit more. And one of the reasons is because it's a certain hamtaka. Because the week now, you're going from Hevlei Mashiach, from all the Nisyonis of the week, you're going into Shabbos, and you used to have Kabbalah Shabbos. There's a lot more singing. There's a lot more singing Lel Shabbos, and there's a reason for it. Because singing sweetens everything and makes everything, puts everything into a good space. Especially when there's a lot of judgment, and Gevura needs, how do you sweeten it? Hamtaka Sadinim B'Shur Hashem, through singing. Through Zameh. Okay, we could go on and on. I don't know if we have time. It's already been a long thing. That's the thing with Tzadik. It's so deep. There's so much to look at. So we had just to summarize. We had the first part was about Oivecha. So Alovecha, the way he learned it out, and it seemed a little bit unclear how Rav Simcha Bunim could say that it's Peshuto Hamikra, but it means the Yetzer Harah. And then he went into this whole parish of the Shivas Umas or Olam, which is the Shorish, is the 7 nations in Eretz Yisrael. You see, the Am Yisrael are here to make Seder of all the creation, and part of it is through the 70 nations and Kiddush, and the whole avodah of Am Yisrael of defeating the Yetzer Harah will loosen the whole of the Yetzer Harah on the world. It won't have a shlita anymore in the Umas Olam also. That's why when I feel a lot of anti-Semitism comes from us not doing our job. It's not to do with them. If we do our job, they won't have any problem. They'll love us. And there are many, many goyim who do love us, as we saw recently, all the goyim that came for Shabbos, that Lel Shabbos, they love us because in Shirat David we're doing our job, hopefully. There are Yidden who are doing their job. Unfortunately, a lot of Yidden, and each of us individually on our own level, also have what to work on. So, the taina on us is be more Yidden, be more Yiddish, do what Hashem wants. And one of the ways to become more Jewish is to understand the depths of Shabbos. Azama b'shvochim, the Leviim, the singing Lel Shabbos, the tikkunim that go on, the different levels of Seudas of Shabbos. It's deep. Yom Tov, it doesn't have it. It doesn't have that extra level that the Neshama Yisera that Shabbos has. Start to learn more and more what Shabbos is. Experience it. Thank God we have Sfarim, there's like Rav Shimshon Pinchas, there's Sfarim that explain Shabbos in English, there's Sfarim that explain Shabbos now in the, like Rav Tzaddok, and that's one of my favorite things about Rav Tzaddok. If you go through him on the Parsha, you'll get deeper and deeper understandings of each Seudah of Shabbos, of each part of Shabbos, and as Hashem, you'll be you'll be singing the praises of Hashem on Shabbos, and that's definitely one of the best forms of Hinuch. When they see the Father singing, and he's in a state of Devekus to Hashem on Shabbos night, that says more than any drasha, any divrei Torah, any other kinds of Hinuch. Just seeing a father in love of Hashem, singing to Hashem at the Shabbos table, an intimate setting, there's no better Hinuch for that. So Bez Hashem, we zocher to see the Leviim singing soon in the Beis Hamikdash, and we should be zocher to the depths of Shabbos and see the Yetzer Harah be sweetened and brought out of its control of all the nations, because Am Yisrael will be serving Hashem be'emes.